Welcome back to Ray's Talk Show. Ray's Talk Show brings leaders inspiration, mentorship, and resources to help you find wealth in your voice. That's right. There's tens of millions in there. We just got to let it out, help you get it out there. Being a community to support your personal development, career growth, and online platform building is what Big Brother Ray and our crew is all about. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your virtual Big Brother, Ray Collazo. For those on Blab, thank you so much for joining Ray's Talk Show live. It's a blessing to be able to do something during the day. We have a little free time, so we had an opportunity to be able to do the show live during normal hours. And for those listening to the podcast, thanks so much for downloading the episode. We always appreciate you listening to us on a podcast. We just encourage you, though, if you don't know about Blab and you want to see what all these, interact with our Rays of Light, like our fantastic guest today, you got to check out the live version of the show. Normally, we tape every Tuesday and Thursday evening, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and whatever time it is in Arizona. Just go to blab.im/Rays Podcast. You can chat and even join the show via video conference. So get down with the Blab, y'all. This episode of Rays Talk Show is done right before Christmas. And we want to give our Rays of Light the gift, really as special as any, to turn their dreams into a life of brilliance. And our special guest is going to help deliver that blessing to our Big Brother Ray community. Let's welcome Liz A. Garcia to Ray's Talk Show. Hey, Liz.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, and you were channeling the Blab, the Blab sign there.
I'm totally digging those little hands.
No, let me tell you, it's more Blab is. You know what I tell people? Blab is more addicting than chocolate. Let me tell you, it's. I love the interaction. For those not familiar with Liz A. Garcia is a speaker, trainer, and life coach that helps us live, love, and lead with boldness.
Yes.
I love that word, Liz. We're going to talk about boldness in a second. And the founder and CEO of Stay Limitless. Liz is going to help us today with a path to living a life in brilliance. But first, Liz, we know you didn't start as a life coach and nationally recognized motivational speaker. So Liz Garcia, where did this journey begin for you?
Oh, this journey really began as a child. It began with my experiences. I grew up in a large Latino family, very loving family, but also in a very chaotic environment. And so what I recognize now is that this path has always been here for me. It just has looked different along the ways. And so I started playing water polo. We talked a little bit about this. I started playing water polo when I was 12. And so for me, that was very much a saving grace. It kept me in school. It kept me feeling good when otherwise I might have not been. It paid my way through college. And it taught me a lot of the fundamental skills that I still carry with me today. I did my grad work at Harvard, so I have a master's in it. It's a little bit long, master's in education with an emphasis on risk and prevention in adolescence. And I did educational nonprofit work for 12 years. And it was beautiful, beautiful work. I did college prep work. I did after school work with elementary school students. And what I realized at a certain point was, in my last job, I oversaw a region of over 600 staff at any given time. And what I learned in that position in particular was that coaching people was what lit me up. Coaching people and helping people grow personally and grow professionally was really the space that just really just lit my heart up. And in February, it'll be 4 years that I launched on my own. And, through these years, I've had some amazing times and I've had some extremely difficult times, but ultimately I've learned that life will give you that. Life will give you some really fun, exciting times and some challenges. And so we get to build our bag of tricks, right? And our tools and our skills and our attitude in terms of how we approach life and how we build on every single opportunity that comes our way.
You know what I love about having people like you on the show, Liz, is that, I do all this prep and I study your bio. And then that first question guides the whole conversation. And there's so much there. And, the first thing I wanted to go to the beginning of your comments is that you talked about how it was I don't know if you used the word rough or dangerous environment, but you made that pretty clear in your opening comments. And I often talk about that because I grew up in the hood, right, North Philly, and have traveled to different communities around the country. And the two things that always stick out, the first one is people don't realize all of the talent and amazing people that live in the most impoverished communities in our country. And so that's why I'm so passionate about bringing other voices to the table like yourself. But the other part of that is that people don't realize the stresses and the scars and the pitfalls of it's one thing to be poor, but it's another thing to live in a dangerous environment, and that can mean a lot of different things. So, what specifically that part of your journey did would you like to share that you had to overcome? And besides, I mean, specifically, how did water polo help you through that? Because that sounds like serious business.
Sure, it wasn't. And for those who know me, know that I'm very open. I'm very open about my experiences and life, because I believe I believe in having conversations that other people aren't willing to have. Because sure. In those conversations is really where we learn and really where we grow. And it's my mom was married. My brother is 1 year older than me. My dad left when I was 4. But my mom had a large family. She had 9 brothers and sisters. So I grew up around a lot of extended family, but there was a lot of gang violence around me, a lot of domestic violence. There was, alcohol, drug abuse. You name it, I saw it, I experienced. And so, as a child, there was a lot of trauma around that I experienced, but what I understand now is that experience very much informs my work, because I very often work with people who, we carry a lot. All of those, if we haven't processed our experiences, we carry them with us. And I have conversations often with adults who are still carrying, their stuff from childhood. And so part of my work is I'm very committed to helping people work through our old experiences and the stories that we're carrying of ourselves because of our experiences, and how to help people let go of that. And, you asked how water polo helped me with that. And for me, I carried a lot of anger. I carried a tremendous amount of anger as a teenager. And that allowed me to channel that anger. That allowed me to channel, I'm a very, very hard worker. So I was always the first in the water. I was the last one out of the water. I was 5'3" in college when my teammates and my opponents were 6 foot, 6'2", but it very much allowed me to channel all my energies and I'm a very passionate person, so there was a whole lot of energy there, but it allowed me to channel it in a very positive way and put myself in positive environments. And so, it's been a beautiful adventure, and again, it's been some very tough times, but from coming from a family, my mom, I used to watch her, cry because she didn't know how she was going to feed us sometimes. But here, 25 years later, I'm in Africa, I'm in China, I'm in Costa Rica, and I get to have all these experiences that a lot of my friends growing up didn't have, or, don't necessarily have as adults. And so, for me, I often think about what can I do as a coach to help people let go of whatever they're carrying, whether it's just the experience or their story of who they are, or the story of who they cannot be because of their experiences.
That you've hit on so many important things, because Liz, I find that so much in that there's so many of us carrying around so much guilt and so much, for lack of a better term, baggage about Absolutely. Shit we didn't even do.
Yeah.
It's like my deal's in prison. My relative did this, my sibling did that. I was around this kind of environment, and we care, and then it's such a burden for so many of us. It causes undue stress, and then subconsciously we feel limited in that. I think in our community, in the way we grew up, I think the imposter syndrome doesn't come up so much about what we're doing now, but that we feel like because if we continue to progress, somehow people are going to find out about these skeletons in my family's closet or whatever. So talk to me about that, because if we can clean people's closets out metaphorically and help them realize they just got to let that stuff go. They would really be able to. That would just free them to feel like they could aspire to so much more.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll touch on 2 pieces. One was the layers of junk that we carry, right? And I talk a lot in my work about guilt and shame, because we carry a lot of it. And for years, I remember I had a friend who, when I first met him, it terrified me to be around him. And at the time I didn't understand, but what I understood now was that he could see me. I knew that he could see me. And at the time, for him to see me was very scary, because I had all this stuff that I was still carrying. Whereas now I talk about my experiences very openly. I own them. And what I know is that everybody around me loved me. Everybody around me did the best that they could. Everybody was just operating based on their own, what they knew and their own experience. And so So when we get to a place where we can fully own all that we've encountered in life and fully own that so much of it has absolutely nothing to do with us, and at the same time, you know, we've done stuff, I've done tons of stuff where I've had to learn how to forgive myself for them so that I don't continue carrying that guilt and shame. But the thing is that we all have experiences, we all have stories, right? So if you allow yourself to be who you are and own who you are and love who you are, all of the positives, all of the negatives along the way, it's a completely different experience. And I'll move over into the imposter syndrome because I also talk about that quite a bit. And it happens to everybody. The higher you get in leadership, the higher you get in terms of responsibility in leadership, it comes up. Research has shown that it shows up more for people of color, and for if you grew up in under-resourced, you know, lack of resources environment, that may show up even more for you. And you know, it's about acknowledgement. It's about learning to say to yourself, okay, one, let me look at my patterns. If I'm scared or if I'm feeling insecure, how does my body react? Does my breathing get short and shallow, or do I start stuttering, or do I start blinking, or whatever it is? But start recognizing what the patterns are in your body. So then what that does, it leads you, and whenever you're in the next space of feeling insecure and feeling not good enough, then what happens is I can say, oh, you know what, I feel my body flushed, or I feel my body's telling me that I'm feeling insecure right now, but what I know is I know that it's going to go away. And if I can stay connected to how it manifests in my body physically, it's easier to get through it, because it can be still very uncomfortable, but in your body you can say, okay, I recognize these signals, let it be okay that it's totally uncomfortable, and I know that it's going to go away soon. And it's training your brain and training your body to be completely okay with those moments of discomfort, and completely okay to know that I can sit here and tell you that absolutely for the rest of my life there will be times where I feel completely insecure. Absolutely, that's not going to go away because I'm a human being. It's going to be there. And so if I get to be okay with that, it's a much different experience than trying to hide and feel shame every time it happens. Completely different experience.
That's right. And you know, it's interesting how when they interview the most successful people in the world, they still have insecurities. You know, it doesn't go away. I mean, if you're not feeling insecure, you're not pushing yourself.
That's right.
You're staying in a comfort zone that is not going to help you grow. I mean, you can't grow without a little pain. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of it. Yep. So it's, you know, I think that's spot on. And Liz, you know, the other thing that I like to help people think about how to kind of turn this around is that those challenging backgrounds that we have, many of us have, that's actually a great strength, because that speaks to our narrative, and that speaks to the kind of resilience that we have, because, you know, and I think you and I both share, you know, a time in the Ivy League. And I just remember going to school. I went to Columbia University undergrad, mm-hmm. and I remember how socially awkward a lot of my colleagues were, because they had always lived in a very homogenous world, and now they were having to deal with people from different ethnic backgrounds and socioeconomic backgrounds, and they had just a hard time. And it was like cake to me. I was like, nobody here, you know, like, I mean, yeah, you know, if we could survive where we came, you know, if we could survive, and when you grow up the way we grew up, you know, with everybody, immigrants, people from different ethnic groups, people who spoke different languages, because, you know, that's just the way we grew up, and it wasn't having to adjust and sort of live in different worlds was how you live day to day. So it's actually a great strength of ours, mm-hmm. and we have to help people. And I'm sure you do it, and we'll talk a little bit later about this, the concept of living a life in brilliance. To understand that at the end of the day, while there may be some pain involved in some of that history, it's actually a great asset.
Absolutely.
Is that something that how do you help people to sort of flip the script on that paradigm?
Well, it really is about reframing your story, because your experience is what it is, but you get to tell your story. You get to choose how you tell your story. So I can tell my story and I can say to people, you know, I had this horrible upbringing and they didn't love me. Or I can say, you know, I was around a lot of chaos, but I knew that I was loved. I knew that I was loved, and I was around some brilliant people who, like, I can go anywhere and I can MacGyver anything, because I was around people who were resourceful. I was around people who were going to make things happen. I was around people who were going to solve problems. And it's really about making the choice. I think there's a couple of choices here. Making the choice of how you tell your story, and making your choice to be okay, to be okay with what your experience has been, and completing any incompletions you have. And what that means is, and I learned this from Marshall Weeder, who's founder of the Dream University, and you complete your completions. And what that means is that if there's any area in your life that you're not feeling complete with, anything that you're carrying, any fear, any shame, any guilt, any of that, then you get to choose what action can I take today to complete that for myself, so that I'm not carrying that anymore. Because it's heavy, it weighs on us heavy, right? And so a great exercise that somebody can do is they can sit down and write out what their life has been. And when you're writing out, you can be very clear about what language you're using. You can be very clear about what tone, and intentional about what tone you're using, and how, like, what lens you're using. And it's not about making anybody right. It's not about making anybody wrong, but it's about, choosing to see it from a completely different lens.
That's right. And you're listening to Liz Garcia from State Limitless, and she's a life coach, trainer, motivational speaker. And we encourage everyone listening to this to definitely reach out to Liz. She has a wonderful podcast as well, which we'll talk about later in the show. If you're looking for coaches for your organization and the kind of work that you're working on. Let's talk a little bit about Liz, about the Stay Limitless journey.
Yes.
I'm so jealous because it's a process I'm sort of in the middle of, and I'm like, wow, she got to that point. You've made the transition, and I'm hoping, it'll happen next year. That's definitely part of the plan. And we have, one of the reasons I started this show is I felt like a cage bird, Liz, because I said, I know all these people that are so talented that including myself, we have so much to share, but that we don't have the outlet to spread our wings and fly. We're doing our job, we're well regarded in our field, but we don't really have, at the end of the day, it's not leading our vision, it's participating in another vision of some sort. Regardless of how we feel about it, it's still not ours. And So I knew all these great people around the country, and wanted to share them. And I know there's a lot of people feeling that way. And so for those folks that are feeling like me, trying to transition, trying to explore and really be free in business, what's the first bit of advice you have for them about the Stay Limitless journey from transitioning from, I believe it was nonprofit management now, to being a full-time entrepreneur?
That is it, exactly. And I would start with getting clear what you want out of your journey, let's say. Getting clear on, and let me say, I learned this from Luis Barajas, who was a guest recently on my podcast. He's a national.
Yeah, I heard that show. Very good show. Yeah.
Brilliant, right? And so I learned from him that you get clear first on what type of life you want to create for yourself. Usually people go the route of they'll get clear on their business first, and then they'll build a life around their business. And you want to think about it backwards. You get very clear about what's the life that I want to create for myself, and then you build everything around that. And for me, it was one that I knew that this is the work that I wanted to do all day, every day. I connect with people, I want to coach people, I want to train people, I want to help people move from one place in life to another place, and to help people manage those transitions. So I understood that, and so part of it is that, getting clear what you want, getting clear how you want to do your work, and how that will create revenue for you. Because it's tough. And sometimes you're going to launch and your business will remain the same model the whole way through. And then sometimes you're going to find out what your vision was. It didn't work out, and you're going to have to make a couple of right turns and a couple of left turns. And but you've got to have a plan along the way. And I think the other part is that you need to get clear on a few things. And one of the things I need to get clear is, are you willing to live in uncertainty for 3, 4, 5 years? Because that's the way, I heard somebody say, I give myself a year. If you're giving yourself a year, you're setting yourself up because in that first year, you're trying to figure out this new life, right? And so if you can live in uncertainty for 3, 4, 5 years, that's your first goal. You want to be clear what's your relationship with uncertainty. You want to be clear what's your relationship with fear. How do you operate with fear? And have you taught yourself to feel fear and just keep moving and keep plowing forward? What's your relationship with with yourself and being willing to start something new and being willing to do something new and to create something new that you've never done before. And so you want to get clear on all these different angles. Who are you in that environment? Are you clear about asking for help? Because there's no way in heck that you can start a business all by yourself. No matter how amazing you are, no matter how awesome you are, this is not even a solo. I'm a solo entrepreneur. You know, it's a solo business. And even that, I have a whole team of people who are around me, helping me, supporting me. When I'm waking up feeling confused, feeling about, I don't know what to do, I have a whole team of people who are helping me through. And so it very much is a life of asking for help and asking very clearly and boldly for what you need.
No, and there's so much there, Liz, because I think one of the things that as part of my journey as a podcaster now, transitioning into being a solopreneur as part of this, is that, you know, being a leader and having a dream and going for it can be very lonely.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're not taught to do this. We're taught to, especially in our backgrounds, it's like, you know, we want to just kind of get you out the hood safe, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, education, stability, buena vida, you know, and look, I mean, our families did so much for us to get this far, but ultimately to kind of have the, you know, quite honestly, the wealth that not only we need to just do what we need to do for our families and our lives, but also that it's only right that we get compensated for the value that we bring. And there's so much that we bring to the table. And so how did you get out of that loneliness? Because I know I still struggle with it, I'll be honest, because especially for friends who are successful people, educated, hardworking, good folks, you know, most of them have kind of, be honest with you, they put their dreams on a shelf somewhere. You know, they got kids, they got family, they got a mortgage, you know, that part of my life's over, and I'm not letting it go. And I often do feel sometimes like, am I kind of just being a dreamer, you know, kind of, or a flaky person, or, you know, kind of like not realistic, but at the end of the day, I've got to follow my heart. So for those that are feeling they've got a vision, they've got a dream, but they're feeling really lonely, how do they create a team around them that can support them?
Absolutely. And I so appreciate that question, because loneliness is such a huge, it's a regular element for people. And so I think there's a couple of pieces to it. First is that exactly what you're saying, that the fact that you're making the bold move to go on your own, that in fact oftentimes is very lonely, because like you said, most people won't do it. And with all love and respect, I understand why. It's you know, on one end, it's totally a crazy move to make, because you're jumping into a pool of uncertainty. So I totally value and honor those who choose to go other routes. But the fact that you're making that decision that in itself puts you in a path that's completely different than most other people. Then the work that you're doing, I mean, anytime, you know, there's a saying, you know, it's lonely at the top, and that saying is there for a reason, because it really is. So the higher you are in a space of leadership, you know, the more confidentiality and the sensitive the information that you have. And so that's just kind of natural in terms of leadership. I have had some real difficult moments along the way. I'm going to hit 4 years in February, and I have had some absolute like breakdown. Friends come over and like help me get through this, because it's easy to fall into. It's my work every day is on my computer, and I'm by myself. And so I've had to be very, very intentional about, I cannot hibernate. Like me, it's when I get into like super work mode, one of the things that my patterns was that I would just hunker down, hibernate, and work. And what I learned was that in this new life as an entrepreneur, I can't do that anymore. Because what happens is that before, when I had a job and I would be at home hibernating, I'd have to go home. I have to go to work. So there was people around me. Here, if I hibernate and hunker down and work, 5 days later, I'm still in my computer. It's just still me. So I've had to be very, very intentional about putting myself in places where I'm around other people. I've had to be very intentional about, you know, there's a term called masterminding. So mastermind is a group of people who come together on a regular basis, and they are working towards the same goal. And I've been very intentional about masterminding. So I have a friend who's in New York. Her and I meet every day. We're off on winter break right now, but we meet every day. And so 5 a.m. my time, 8 a.m. her time, and we talk about.
That's great.
I mean, it's been a beautiful thing for us to do. And we talk about, what have we achieved? Just keep it basic, right? What have we achieved? What am I looking for today? What am I struggling with? And those 3 basic questions. Anybody just pick up the phone, and we do it over FaceTime. And it really has, for both of us, opened up a whole new world. We both have talked about just how amazing, just when we started having those conversations, so much for us cleared out because the life of an entrepreneur, I mean, there's so much cloud of doubt and thought. It's natural because you're building something that's not been done before. Even if it's been done by somebody else with another model, I've never done this. So I'm making stuff up every day pretty much, right? And so with that comes fear and doubt. And is this going to work, or is this going to work the way I intended to, or I'm putting all this energy into something, is it going to look like I think it's going to look? And so when you have all those doubts, you have to keep yourself around people. And I'm very big about choosing who you speak with and choosing who you share your dreams with, because if you have a big dream, not everybody can understand that. And with all my love, not everybody can understand it, and not anybody can show up to fully support you the way you need it. And I would encourage everybody, get clear about who those people are who can support you the way you need support. You get clear on how.
And it's so interesting you say that, Liz, because it's you go through different emotions in this process, right? Oh, yeah. Because you go through a phase at one point, and I'm sure you can relate to this, where you have these dreams, you're so excited about sharing them, and all you want to do is share them with the people you care about the most, and and anyone and then there's people around you that care about you, you're friends with, your colleagues, and they don't get it. They just don't get it. It's not that they don't believe in you or anything like that. And then you can definitely get bitter about that, right? You can get, if you want to, you can get bitter about that, and frankly waste a lot of energy on trying to analyze it. When at the end of the day, that's part of being a leader. If you're, they talk about it in sports, right? Like, fans are like, I don't like the bandwagon fans. It's like, if you have a bandwagon, that means you're doing well. Yeah. So you gotta take it for what it's worth. And again, we're talking to Liz Garcia, of the president, CEO, and the founder of Stay Limitless. Liz, let people know, as we go into learning more about your Life in Brilliance model and training methods, tell a little bit more people about your company and your social media platforms, where they can find you.
Sure. So I'm on, you can find me online. lifeinbrilliance.com is the name of the website, and that's where I host my podcast. All of my social media links are Stay Limitless One. So Facebook, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I particularly love Facebook and Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn. Liz
Latinas love the gram. They love the gram. Y'all love the gram.
I really do. I mean, it's just, we get to,
my wife's on there. I'll make sure you two connect on the gram.
Please, I'm visual. I'm a visual person. I love seeing people. I love connecting with people. And my work is a combination of individual work and group work. So I'll talk about training. I'm a leadership trainer, and I specialize in serving individuals in nonprofit. And I love particularly serving those people who are first-time supervisors and people who are transitioning into their new positions, because I think that our world in terms of supervision is very much, historically has been the model of do what I say because I'm the boss type. And I just don't believe in that. I believe in service leadership, and I believe in developing people, and I believe in helping people be successful. And it's a learned skill. Supervision is very, very hard because it's people, and it comes down to what you were talking about, is recognizing that it's not about me. This work, nothing is about me. And when somebody can get clear on that, your experience as a supervisor is totally different. Your experience in your work with your clients is very different. So that's the training piece. And then I also have the Life in Brilliance podcast, and it's beautiful because I bring on all these amazing people who are doing amazing things, and I want to know about their journeys. And anybody who knows me knows, like, I want, if I'm interested in somebody and I like somebody, I want to know everything. I want to know your victories. I want to know your challenges. I want to know all your secrets to how you're so successful. So is it because you're super organized, or is it because you've built this great network, or is it because, you know, whatever you learned in grad school, whatever it is, I want to know. And so this gives me the space to build on my strengths. So for those of people who are looking at being entrepreneurs, know what your strengths are, build on your strengths. So my strengths is that I'm a great question asker because I want to know everything about people. And so I do. It's given me the space where, you know, I want people to be inspired, but I want people, more importantly, to leave with actionable steps. Be able to leave a podcast and say, this is what I learned from Ray, and these are the 1, 2, 3 steps that I'm going to take based on what I learned, but based on the new skills or strategies or tips that I learned on the podcast. You know, in a few months, I'm going to be, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I'm going to be launching the membership part of my website. And so what that means is that people will be able to pay a monthly subscription, they'll get webinars, they'll get masterminds, they'll get a private Facebook page, private coaching calls, group coaching calls, and yeah, it's been a beautiful adventure.
That is awesome, and we definitely need to mastermind about that kind of stuff. We definitely want to figure out how we can support you and collaborate. And again, I'm in this transition period, so trying to grow up to be like you, Liz, no question about it. And before we learn a little bit more about Life and Brilliance, again, this is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo. You're listening to, you're watching Ray's talk show on Blab or Ray's podcast. Really appreciate you listening to our wonderful Ray of Light today, who's Liz Garcia, who's helping us live a life in brilliance and really sort of let us get out of that cage that we feel like we're in and live our lives and just be 100% of who we are every moment of our life. What a blessing just to wake up and be like, I'm just going to be me. That's what I want our people to do. And it's
real. Like the really whole concept of keep it real, like keep it real in all the moments that are fun and that are awesome, and all the moments that are uncomfortable and don't feel so good. Just allow yourself to be true.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And again, if you're listening to this as a podcast or on Blab, definitely check out and subscribe to Ray's podcast on iTunes. We'll be on Google Play, as I'm sure you will be as well, Liz, early next year. And anywhere you can check out a podcast or check out rayspodcast.com. Wanted to ask you, this is a very provocative tagline you have, Liz, Life and Brilliance. So let's start with what a life in brilliance means to you.
It is exactly this conversation. It is allowing yourself to be bold, allowing yourself to be brilliant. Like, you have that brilliance. It's allowing yourself to show it and allowing yourself to shine in it and allowing others to see the amazing you that you are. Allowing yourself first to see that amazing person in here, and to allow others to see that. To allow yourself in all of your strengths and all of your talents to fully show up and own them and enjoy them. I see people all the time, and I used to be one of those people who I didn't allow myself to fully own my strengths. Somebody would say, oh, you're great at that, and it was really that person, or thanks, but no, that's not true. And I'm committed now to living a life saying, you know what, absolutely, I am very good at this. Absolutely, I am great at this. And also, absolutely, I can tell you very clearly also the areas that are not my strengths, and I'm okay with that, right? Because it's all these different parts of who you are. And so a life in brilliance for me isn't about being perfect. It's not about not making mistakes. It's about being able to say, you know what, yeah, I made that mistake and I learned from it. Do I have to apologize or whatever I need to do to complete it? But I'm going to be okay with the fact that I'm all these different parts of being human. And I'm going to, in doing that, will allow me to enjoy my life on a whole different level. That's at the end of the day, I just want to have a good time. And all these things is what love.
Right. I always share, let me tell you something, Liz, we're on the same page, because I always tell this to people. There's nothing, look, we have this podcast, I'm sure, career person, but trying to take care of business, right? Family and life and everything. But there's nothing wrong with having a good time. You work hard, you deserve to celebrate, enjoy yourself. So this is, I don't want anyone to watch this or listen to this and say, wow, these people are too serious and they're moping. No, and I'm sure Liz has friends and social life. Well, actually, we have some mutual friends. So we know that, we enjoy our lives and there's nothing wrong with that. So, and one of the things I find is that whether it's in work or in socializing, is that when you're open and you're living your life, the kind of people you attract around you, this even goes to your personal life. For the kind of people that are gonna help you not only move forward in your career but enjoy your life, in every way. So there's a part of your. I'm sorry, Liz.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to add that there's a part of the conversation where, when you're at a certain vibration, people will show up who are also at that certain vibration. And the other part is also that, one of the things that I've learned is that the power of saying no. And it's the power of saying no, and that includes that, I've had to say, you know what, I really love this person, but right now this person and their negative energy is not good. For me, it's not good to have around me, and it really is okay to make decisions and make hard decisions and uncomfortable decisions so that you are in a place where you're feeling good and you keep people around you who are feeling good. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It means that, sometimes you get to love people from afar, or you get to start doing things differently because this is who you are now. And so it's okay to honor your needs even when they're uncomfortable for others.
Now, another part of the tenets of your Life in Brilliance training, which I wanted to bring this up first because I see this particularly as a perceived obstacle, and I'm saying perceived because that I feel a lot of Latina managers and leaders, as they're moving up, have a complejo about, for lack of a better term, is about this communication piece. So you couch it as, how do you help people be proactive and influential communicators? And so whether it's public speaking or communicating as a manager, or even doing stuff like this. I mean, one of the reasons, look, for full disclosure, one of the reasons I reached out to you, Liz, is that there's so few Latinas podcasting, particularly in this space. And let me tell you, including people you and I know in common, every Latina I know that's got it going on has a message. I'm like, please, I'll help you. I'll set it up. I'll tape it for you. Because there's so many talented people, but they have this timidity around communicating. So I want you to really speak to that piece about the importance of helping people be proactive and express their influence in communication.
I think, and I so appreciate that because, I love my Latina sisters, and there's so many brilliant, amazing women.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's just
networks. It's unbelievable. The talent is so incredible. It's amazing. You're right. Yeah.
Part of it is, I recently read this book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers, and he talked about timing and how timing, it really gave me a whole different perspective about how timing plays into, people's success. Like, there's a part of success is like you put in the hard work, you did everything you need to do, and part of it is also timing. And what I understand now very clearly is that the timing for Latinas in this country is it's so the perfect time. Latinas are starting businesses more than, I don't know the exact percentage, but more than others right now. And this really is a time. And so, ultimately what it comes down to is us being willing to say, I'm not going to ask permission, but I'm going to make the decision to do something. I'm going to ask for help when I need it, but I'm going to, instead of feeling like I'm going to ask permission from somebody to do something, I'm going to make the decision, one, that whatever message I have or whatever work I have is absolutely needed. And this is not about an ego conversation, right? I can stand here as a coach and tell you very clearly, I know 100% that the work that I'm doing is absolutely needed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here to do this work. I know the work is needed. So I get to be bold and fully own that as a coach and say that. And then I also get to say, I'm going to choose X, Y, and Z route to do this work. Okay. And now my job is to go out and look for supporters and my teammates to help me do it. But I think a big part of it is not waiting around, not waiting for somebody to say, you know what, Ray, you know what, I think you're the person that needs to do it. You know what, Julie, you're the person that needs to do it. No. I need to be bold enough in myself and say, you know what, I'm going to do this work, whether it's as an entrepreneur or within your nonprofit and moving up in a position. But, I've had people say, I'm in this organization and I'm doing my work and I'm working hard and I'm working hard and I'm working hard. And this person over here is the person that got the raise, but simply because he was the only one that was talking about how great his work is. And ultimately, you've got to be willing to talk up. You've got to be willing to blow your horn. You've got to be willing to say, absolutely, my work is necessary. Absolutely, my work is great. Let me show you why and let me show you how. As opposed to, well, what do you think? Do you think that, I can do this work, or do you think that I should do this work? No, let's stop asking for permission and be bold, and let's make some really, really bold decisions.
That's exactly right. And on that piece, for those that you talk about being the folks that feel like they're not good public speakers, because I hear this all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not a good public speaker. I'm not comfortable with my voice. I'm not comfortable because I have an accent. I'm not comfortable because people are looking at me because I'm kind of cute. I mean, I hear, there's so many subtexts, particularly for the Latinas in sort of managing and being young and all these different layers to it. So what have you found have been the keys for people to make that breakthrough?
I would go back to, I talked earlier about the stories that we carry. And whenever I hear somebody say something like, I'm not a good public speaker, that's a story. You've chosen to tell yourself that you're not a good public speaker. Maybe you're not a polished public speaker, or maybe you're not an experienced public speaker, but you are a public speaker. So your next space is to look at as I stand here, as I sit here, what are my strengths as a speaker right now, and what are my areas of improvement? Then I get to look at, for whatever my top 3 strengths are, what are the actions that I need to take to continue strengthening those strengths. You always want to play on your strengths. Get clear about what your strengths are and continue strengthening them. And then my areas of improvement, okay, what do I need to do so that if I get nervous while I'm speaking and then I forget what I'm saying, okay, so when I get nervous, can I allow myself 30 seconds to just sit back and be quiet and breathe in the middle of my talk so that I can regain my composure and regain my thoughts and then start over. And so a lot of times, all these things that we say to ourselves that make me not a good public speaker, for example, is simply a matter of gaining strategies that will help you continue strengthening yourself as a public speaker. But for somebody to say a blanket statement, I'm not a good public speaker, is simply a story. And again, you get to continue holding on to that story, or you get to create a new story for yourself.
That's exactly right. No, and I think about the blessing that speaking gave me, because going back to our sports conversation earlier, I grew up in North Philly. I grew up with a lot of athletes, and a couple of them who are friends of mine, like one, I'm not going to get his name now, but someone in the NBA you would have known. I mean, someone that accomplished quite a bit in his pro career. And what I love about speaking is that in this modem, I'm 7 feet tall, because I'm able to express myself and be who I am and get over that, the things that a lot of times hold back. Because let me tell you, the height thing is not a small thing for Hispanics. I hear it all the time. Like, I got to get a booster to get on the stage, or I don't feel confident in myself because I'm not tall, or I'm not used to people paying attention to me. And there's a lot in there that we need to help people unpack, Liz. And the other part of your Life and Brilliance training series, which is so powerful, which is leadership and growing as a leader while not going crazy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Ooh. It's I can talk about leadership like all day, so I'm excited that we're here. I'm excited about all the conversation, but growing as a leader while not going crazy really is about allowing yourself the space to grow. It means that because you're a supervisor, because you're a leader, doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers. So get that out of your head, just completely. And again, it goes back to building on your strengths and acknowledging your weaknesses. So if you're a supervisor in an organization, then what that means is that you have a team of people who are there to help you grow as a leader and help you be successful as a leader. So, I've heard people say, well, I can't delegate because I don't trust my team. Well, if you trust yourself as a leader, then you know that you're developing your team. And so that absolutely you can build spaces to build trust and to build safety around sharing the work. But it's really about building strategies so that you know what your areas of improvement are, and you build the people around you to be successful. If I have a team around me, I want to be successful, but I want all of them to be successful. I want all of them to feel good coming to work every day. I want all of them to go home feeling like they accomplished something, like they were able to do the work that they do well, were able to own their strengths and own their outcomes. And so my goal as a leader is, how am I showing up intentionally to help everybody else be successful?
And Liz, that's so important, and when we have you back on on Ray's Talk Show. We're going to definitely dive more into leadership, and definitely encourage people to continue to watch your podcast as well. Liz, as we wrap this up, I know you wanted to offer something to our Ray's podcast community.
Absolutely, yes. So I have a tip guide that I give out. When people sign up on my website, they can go on lifeinbrilliance.com, and that's kind of the easy route. And when you get to the website, there's a sign-up space, a sign-up bar, and in there you get a free tip guide. I'm not going to give you the tips because it's exciting and I'm going to surprise you, but for free tip guide for living an amazing life. And is your entire life going to be solved by this tip guide? No, right? But what it does is it gives you some 4 basic strategies to start. And I would encourage everybody to stop by and listen to the podcast. The podcasts have been amazing. I mean, these conversations just blow my mind every single time. And I welcome people, come on over to the website, lifeinbrilliance.com. Check out the podcast, sign up for the free tip guide. Signing up for the free tip guide also gives you access to my newsletter. And so you'll stay updated when I have new podcasts or any blogs come out in the future. And so 2016 is going to be a big year. Bold is my word for, I choose a word every year, and bold is going to be my word for 2016, is my word for 2016. So I invite you to come along for the ride. It's lots of big stuff is happening.
Well, that's so great, Liz, and we're going to wrap up this Dish and Ray podcast. I think I'm having a technical glitch here with the lights, but Liz, thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful ray of light. Definitely check out the Life and Brilliance podcast. And again, thank you so much for listening to Ray's podcast. Liz, let people know again where they can find you on social media.
Yes. So podcast is on lifeinbrilliance.com. Social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Stay Limitless and the number 1, Stay Limitless 1. On LinkedIn, you can find me on Liz Garcia Limitless, and everything is under Liz A. Garcia. And I love social media. Come, let's get connected. Let's have some fun, and let's keep doing big work. And congratulations to you and where you are in your transition. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited for you.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. We're definitely going to keep collaborating. Have a wonderful holiday season. Again, thanks so much for listening to Ray's Talk Show live here on Blab and Ray's podcast, and have a wonderful day. And again, happy holidays, Liz.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for having me.